Hey guys and girls, this is the star attraction, TNA Impact Wrestling superstar Mark Haskins. You're watching Amplified TV.
How did you get into professional wrestling?
Well, I suppose it kind of stemmed from me being a 9-year-old fan and watching guys like Hulk Hogan and such, and just growing up and wanting to be a professional wrestler. I started going to local shows in England across the years, and from there I just approached somebody at the back of the hall and asked like how I could become a professional wrestler, and he gave me a brochure to a place called the FWA Academy. Now, it was based in Portsmouth, so from where I lived it would take about 2 hours to get there or so. But it was the best training facility around. It was the best in Europe, you know. And like, if I wanted to make a serious go of wrestling, then I wanted to go to the best place that I possibly could do, and that was Portsmouth.
Yeah. So, what was training with the FWA like? I imagine you were training with the likes of Alex Shane.
Not so much Alex Shane, but guys like Paul Burchill and Winter, she was there. Other guys who have gone on to sort of bigger and better things, you know. And my trainer, Mark Haskins, is a very intense trainer. He's a guy that will push you to your absolute limit, and he will take you places where you never thought you could go, you know. And I owe a lot of what I have right now in my career to him, you know. He's helped me through everything. He's been a great friend for me. He's always been there when I've needed him. And he's been a great trainer as well.
Yeah. And in the years you've been wrestling on the independent scene and in TNA, what has been your favourite match and why?
Oh, favourite match? I have no idea. Seriously, I have so many matches which I enjoy, and all of them for different reasons. I don't know which would be my favourite. Yeah. I mean, one which was my favourite was, arguably one of my favourites is my match with Austin Aries at Wembley this past year. Yeah. There was another one where I got to team with Magnus, who's a good friend of mine, against Beer Money at Wembley the year before. Then there's also certain matches from Japan, such as my 2 pay-per-view matches, which I enjoyed thoroughly. Another match in Japan at Korakuen Hall, which I enjoyed as well. So there's a lot, and I wouldn't be able to pinpoint just one.
Yeah. And what advice would you give someone wanting to pursue a career in wrestling?
The best piece of advice I was ever given was keep your mouth shut and your eyes and your ears open, because as long as you take in everything that you possibly can do, you're only going to succeed, you know. If you keep learning and you have that fire and you have that passion to do well, if you really want something that badly, no matter what obstacle is in your way, you will overcome it if you want it that bad.
Okay. There are a lot of training schools in the UK, and some of them are just there to make a quick buck. What school would you say is the best in the UK to go to? I'm
not 100% sure. I mean, a training school which I believe just recently closed was that of a guy that helped train me in the early stages of my training, and that was a guy called Justin Richards. His school was based in London, and I believe that has recently shut down, which is so unfortunate, because I would have said his was probably the best in the UK. Outside of the FWA Academy, of course, which closed its doors years ago. Right now, I think your best bet is just to look at a training school, look at the guys that they've trained, see what kind of success level they have, or success rate, should I say, and just see if they have their own training facilities. An on-site training place would be your best bet, and especially with guys who have trained guys to go on and be successful.
Okay. And TNA returns to the UK next year.
Yeah.
For the Road to Lockdown tour. Which city are you most looking forward to performing in?
You can't ask me that. Every city is enjoyable to be in. I mean, what is it? There's Manchester, London, Glasgow, Nottingham. They add dates all the time, don't they? I mean, we're going to be on a tour up and down the country. I mean, Dublin, Ireland, there's going to be a Polish date in there as well, okay. I believe. But obviously you didn't hear that from me, that's not common knowledge. I don't know. Every city is enjoyable to go to. I mean, there's a different atmosphere at every single one, and it's great to be at every single event.
Yeah. And on this past tour in January, did you find that the fans' reaction differs from city to city?
Potentially, yeah. One thing you have to take into account as well is that with every city that you go to, there's going to be a different amount of people in the crowd. You know, there's going to be a different house, there's going to be a different draw, which means that even though there may be a small percentage of the crowd which is rooting for this guy, that is only amputated when that comes to a bigger crowd, you know. I mean, it's going to be amplified. There's going to be more people cheering for this guy, more people booing this guy. It's going to be different. Plus, furthermore, I suppose there's just different fans congregate in different areas.
Yeah. And there's been recent news that Impact Wrestling will be going live.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on this?
Well, I suppose it's going to add a different atmosphere to the show. I mean, when something's live, you just don't know what could happen because anything could happen at any second, you know, and it's going to add a different element to the show. And I think that over the course of time, you'll just have to tune in and see what kind of element that will bring.
Okay. And in the years you've been wrestling, have you got any funny road stories that you're willing to talk about?
I've got plenty.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could pull one just straight out of the hat. I suppose there was this was when I was going out to Japan. There's another Dragon Gate wrestler called Pac who lives in England, and we were getting on a flight going out to Japan. Now Prince Divot, who won the Super J Cup of that year, this was the first time I ever met him. I recognised him because I'd seen him in the magazines out there. Now, for whatever reason, Pac and I were in, I believe it was either business class or first class or something like that. And Fergal gets onto the plane and he sort of says hello to Pac, and I introduce myself to him. And he kind of says, well, I'll see you guys in Japan, and carries on walking to the back of the plane. And it was the strangest thing because it's like, well, this guy's like, you know, the Super J Cup winner or whatever, and he's in the back of the plane, yet we're in like business class or whatever. And I guess we just kind of were like, yeah, get to the back, shoot, you know, which I felt kind of bad about, but he ended up soaking me in water at some point soon after that, so I guess he got his own back.
Yeah. Okay. And finally, what would be your dream wrestling match? This can have be your dream opponent, dream match type, and what venue would you like this match to take place in?
I have no idea. You know, I've been so lucky because across the years I've got to fight some of the guys that I wanted to fight. And I've been able to step in there in certain arenas which I never thought I would get the chance to go to. So to pinpoint a dream match, I have no idea what that would be or where it would be. But some of the matches that I wanted to partake in, I've done so.